With about 14 months remaining until Canada's next scheduled federal parliamentary elections, the main opposition party, the Conservatives, have at last released what they call a fair, orderly and compassionate vision for Canada's immigration plan, amidst a tense national and internal debate on the issue. The Canadian Conservative Party's immigration critic Michelle Rempel and her colleague Gérard Deltel outlined how their party would handle the immigration file in Ottawa on Wednesday morning, August the 22nd, 2018, making it clear immigration will be a key election campaign issue in 2019. According to Ms. Rempel, we need to bring it back to policy, and she argued that the Liberal government has treated setting the number of immigrants allowed into Canada like an auction, and without ensuring they can work in Canada. The Conservatives claim that if they win the next federal parliamentary election and form the next government, federal cabinet in Canada, they will encourage immigrants to become self-sufficient, in other words, to earn their living by working instead of relying on the federal government's social programs like welfare, unemployment insurance, housing allowance, and so forth. They will prioritize the most vulnerable when it comes to humanitarian immigration, and they will match the skills of economic migrants with industries that need workers in Canada. Ms. Rempel promised that the Conservatives would tour Canada over the next year to help shape their policies, including closing the loophole on the Safe Third Country Agreement. However, Ms. Rempel, when asked by a journalist, did not give specifics on immigration levels under a Conservative government. She instead replied, "There's a reason why I started off my speech by talking about how I feel immigration levels have been set in Canada of late, and I do feel like it's an auction." She then criticized the Liberal government's Syrian refugee numbers for being arbitrarily set. She continued, "Prime Minister Andrew Scheer would set those numbers by putting first a formal process in place." The Canadian Immigration Minister Ahmed Hussein of the Liberal Party called Ms. Rempel's outlining of the Conservative action plan for reforming Canada's immigration system empty criticism for the sake of criticism. He continued, I haven't seen anything here today that convinces me that they've changed the channel. When they were asked repeatedly whether they think our numbers are too high or too low, 5 times they couldn't answer that question." The Tories' announcement came as the Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is dealing with a flurry of reaction to his handling of a heckler who shouted questions at him during a political rally in Quebec last week. The heckler asked him whether the federal government would repay the province of Quebec for costs it has incurred as a result of an influx of illegal immigrants coming over the Canada-US border, more specifically from New York State to the province of Quebec, and if he tolerates Québécois de souche, meaning white French Quebecers. In French, Trudeau told her that her racism has no place in Canada. The Conservative leader Andrew Scheer accused Trudeau of resorting to personal attacks because he did not like being questioned about the issue. Of course, he could easily direct much more criticism at the current US President Donald Trump, who is world famous for frequently insulting people who disagree with him on Twitter and using much stronger language than Prime Minister Trudeau did last weekend. La Presse Canadienne later identified this aged female Québécois protester as Diane Blanc, a member of Storm Alliance, a nationalist group that has advocated against immigration. Ms. Rempel said, "I'm not a Québécois, so I don't understand the term at large, but if it holds offense to people and it's not productive towards maintaining Canadian pluralism, then of course I don't support that." The Conservative Party also has been dealing with the immigration policy issue internally. Because last week, Conservative Member of Parliament Maxime Bernier, who challenged Scheer for the leadership role in 2017, published on Twitter a condemning message directed at the Liberal government for their approach to multiculturalism, warning ever more diversities leading to the ghettoization of minorities. In other words, they're flocking together to certain suburbs and other areas and fostering a culture of government dependence. His tweet message sparked rebuke from within his caucus or parliamentary group and from the Conservative Party's federal leader Andrew Scheer, who said Bernier holds no official role in caucus and does not speak for the Conservative Party of Canada on any issue. Bernier noted the timing on Twitter on Wednesday morning, August the 22nd. So, after disavowing me last week for raising the issue and telling me to shut up, my colleagues have just realized that this is something Canadians find important and want to hear about. Great example of strong leadership, he said. Rempel trying to further distance herself from Bernier's tweets. Max has never come to talk to me about immigration, said Rempel. My colleague has a choice to make. Does he want Andrew Scheer to win or Justin Trudeau to win? The topic is expected to dominate the Conservatives' biennial, or held every 2 years, convention on policy held in Halifax, Nova Scotia later this week. And sometime in September, the Canadian Parliament will reconvene after its summer recess, and this will be the second last Canadian parliamentary session before the October 2019 federal parliamentary elections, and we can of course expect tough rhetoric from both sides of the aisle as the ruling Liberals and the opposition Conservatives and New Democrats mainly try to win more public support. According to the recent public opinion polls, neither the Conservatives nor the Liberals have even 40% of the committed voter support, and they are running virtually even, or neck and neck. According to the Toronto Star's article, Michel Rempel and fellow Conservative member of the House of Commons Gérard Deltel were peppered with questions about fellow Conservative member of Parliament's Maxime Bernier's latest brazen display of open defiance and whether leader Andrew Scheer should remove him from the caucus or parliamentary group. Ms. Rempel said the Conservative Party welcomes open debate, noting she herself has publicly differed with her party in the past without facing calls to be kicked out. But she says as Bernier continues to share his views on Twitter, he needs to think about who he wants to win the next election currently scheduled for October 2019.